there's two sides to the sort of questionnaire, okay? Name, school, etc. at the top. And you're presented with a scenario, okay? Just take the facts as they are, okay? And you can, on the back it'll ask you if you want more facts, okay? But so you have to decide what are you going to do, okay? And then at the bottom, you have to sort of tick one for what is the value that sort of motivated your decision, okay? On the back there's another questionnaire where you get given a bit more information, okay? And there you have to decide some other things. But we'll just do the first half first, okay? After you've done the first side, just stop and then we'll go through that and then we'll move on to the second side, okay? Any questions? No questions. Splendid. If you have any questions, just shout. How are we doing? Difficult, isn't it? Terrible, isn't it? It's a horrible dilemma. Are you all nearly done? Thinking deeply? Cool. Are we done? Oh, you're doing the other side. Oh, yeah, just wait until we've done. Yeah. Okay. Yep. Right. Okay. So I don't want to know whether you'd pull the lever or not at this stage. Okay, that's fine. That's between you and yourself. Okay. What I do want to know is what was the values that motivated you. Okay. So who ticked number 1? 5 lives are more important than 1. Nobody amongst you? Well, you went for it, Mark. Okay. Why did you go for it?
I just think that saving 5 lives or preventing the death of 5 lives is what I was aiming for, and that statement was the nearest to what I was aiming to do. I don't like the word important, maybe. I don't know what that means, but it was a kind of balancing act of trying to reduce the amount of harm.
Okay, so what was the underlying value that you were pursuing there? What was it you were trying to...
Preservation of life.
Okay, so you're trying to sort of create the most, save the most lives possible. Okay, that would fit quite well within a utilitarian theory of philosophy. Okay, so there you have a particular thing that you value, and you add up sort of the consequences of making a decision. Okay, and if it would do lots of things for that particular value, okay, then you're going to take the choice that goes more towards that than one that will just sort of save a lesser amount of that value. So here your value is life, 5 lives, 1 life. Okay, you've added them together. Okay, what about the second? Who went for 1 life is as important as 5? Yeah, you went for that.
I just think what it says in the sentence really, that every life is just the same importance.
Okay, so how did you perceive the people on the track? Did you feel that you had a duty to protect them, or that they were claiming something off you? They were making a rights claim. They had a right to life. Do you see yourself as having a duty to preserve life, all life, or as them claiming a right to life, to your protection?
I have a duty to save.
Okay, so yeah, okay, so you're seeing, this is a school of thought known as Deontology, okay? So the difference between that and utilitarianism, okay, is that you don't add together lives, okay? You have something you value, okay? And you see that as being a value in and of itself, okay? And you can't that thing can't be outweighed by adding the others together, okay? So you've got 5 lives and 1 life, okay? So the people, what they're claiming, what's important is exactly the same. The life to one person is as important as the life to any other person, okay? So you can say, right, they're claiming a right to the protection of that, or I have a duty to protect that. We'll see what the difference is between those two slightly later, okay? But yeah, the key thing is you're not adding them together, okay? You might say, okay, in some situations maybe I'm going to value a particular person slightly less, but what you're not going to do is add people together, okay? Interesting. Okay, who went for number 3 then? What matters is not what I do, but that I am virtuous. No? Okay, nobody went for that. Oh yes, why, Stuart?
Well, I think at this stage we can can get caught up in action and focus on the action, but actually what we should be thinking about is what kind of person we are. Ultimately, I will be the one who has to live with the decision that I've made. So I know that I've jumped ahead a bit, but I've sort of said that none of the statements on the back are actually relevant to the decision-making process, because it was what would a good person do effectively.
Mm-hmm.
And that was a decision that was made by me, and I would have to live with that.
Okay.
So which virtues are being demonstrated at that point?
Mm-hmm. So,
it could be some community virtues or something like that, and they might feed into the notion of duty. They might feed the notion of rights,
mm-hmm.
and it might feed into other ideas of utilitarian principles. But at core, I think it cuts through that and underpins.
Okay. So yeah. So this is what's known as virtue ethics, which sort of comes from the ancient Greeks. They had all these great stories about all their heroes and so forth. And what was really important for them was that you displayed the virtues of the heroes. So, I don't know, heroicism, compassion, things like that. Sort of, again, it's how you were as a person rather than sort of how your actions affected others. So you'd start from within yourself. You'd say, okay, what sort of person do I want to be? And that determines the action that I will take, rather than thinking what rights do they have, what's good for society, but rather what sort of person should I be? Okay? It's an interesting idea. Okay, so did you go for 4 then? Nobody's put their hand up. Oh no, we've had one person. Yep, quite a few went for 4. Okay, what do you mean by that?
Well, to me, 1 life is as important as 5, but if I was given the choice to save 5 lives or save 1 life, I'd probably go for the 5 lives to save, because I'd rather live with having to have killed 1 person
mm-hmm.
rather than having to have killed 5.
Okay. But how does that relate to your statement? Because that could fit quite nicely with a utilitarian, but you don't see yourself as a utilitarian.
Well, it's just because others might disagree with me, but it's
mm-hmm.
just my personal opinion, so I think morally that's right for what I would do.
Okay.
I don't know how to explain it.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. No, you've done a good job so far. Okay, somebody else sort of come into that. No, that's good. Hold those thoughts. Yes?
You kind of decide what's right and wrong.
Mm-hmm.
Unless, obviously, there's laws regarding, like, do not murder, like, that's
mm-hmm.
wrong. But I think rather than opinion, it's kind of subjective to you in the situation, what you deem to be right and wrong in that situation. I might think one thing morally is right, but then the next month on,
mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
gets the authority to say that that's true.
Okay. Do you think there is a right answer? Or do you think that it's entirely subjective to...
It's quite subjective, not
okay.
the fact of opinion where the emotions and compassion get involved, but
mm-hmm.
in the situation in theory, you would probably prefer to do one thing, but caught up in the moment, that's not always going to be the case.
Okay. Both good ways of expressing it. Okay, so what this is really going to get at the idea of is the difference between moral relativism and moral pluralism. Okay, so a relativist would say, well, there is no, you can't prove to me, or you can't even prove to yourself that there is one absolutely right thing to do. Okay, it is merely sort of, there are lots of different moral theories, and one cannot be argued to be any better than the other. Okay. The flip side of that is moral pluralism. Okay, so that accepts that there can be disagreements about what is right, okay, but allows for each theory to claim that they are the right one, okay? Relativism doesn't allow that. It just says, nope, there is no right, okay? There is no truth that we can get at, okay? So if you push that, it would be interesting to see how far you would go with relativism, because ultimately it says that there is no right or wrong answer, so people can torture people for fun, because if they think that's the right thing to do, then that's the right thing to do, okay? So if you're really going to go down the relativist approach, okay, those are the really hard cases that you've sort of got to try and confront, okay? You can give it a go, but it's a hard one to fight, okay? Who went for the last one? None of the above. Yeah?
Well, I sort of used 2, 3, and 4
mm-hmm.
elements from all of those, and I didn't use number 1 because I don't think you really can make a utilitarian or consequentialist decision in this situation, because you don't know the sort of values that are deciding whatever that each of one person or each of 5 people could have. So I don't think you could ever make a consequentialist judgment, certainly in like the very short space of time that you'd have in this situation.
Mm-hmm.
And then I also think in this situation it's not irrelevant, but to me I'm not sure whether there is inherent value in human life or not.
Mm-hmm.
So I wouldn't like to say that 1 life is just as important as 5 lives or anything like that. So it comes down to sort of my action and the decision that I take. And whilst you could say that choosing not to act is as much of an action as the action of moving the lever, I don't know whether it's, I will try to sort of absolve myself of all responsibility, but allowing the sort of events to play out as it would seem, that it would, like, not nature, but as it would seem that they would have done had I not intervened at all, seems, because I wouldn't like to comment about consequences of saving lives or the amount of value given to each life. That would seem like none of the
you just don't want to.
Desirable, but that seems like the least problematic sort of way to go about it, and least difficult decision for you to make.
Okay. Oh, that's interesting. But you think there is a possibility of coming to a right answer with a moral principle. You're not a relativist. Okay. Okay. Well, when you turn over, as you can now turn over, you'll see you get a lot more information. So what will be really interesting for you is which of the following information do you find the most important, okay? So what it asks, so what I want you to do is you've got sort of 6 extra pieces of information, and if they would sort of confirm the decision you made on the other side, put a C in the box, okay? If they make you change your mind and think, no, I was wrong, okay, then put a little cross in the box, okay? If it would really change your mind or really make you think you were wrong, go for it has a very sort of strong impact on your decision. Less so, go for sort of some, or if you just think it wouldn't affect you at all, just put sort of a tick in the no impact box, okay? Okay, what we're going to do next, you might have overheard me telling Sinead, so I'm going to split you up into 4 groups, okay? And then you're going to basically debate these 6 points amongst yourselves and try and sort of come to some sort of consensus, okay? About how important you see the factors as in making this decision as a whole, okay? So how important do you see these factors to making the decision? And I'm going to ask you to put sort of A, B, C, D, E, how's it go far? Does it go up to E? F, on Post-it notes and put them in your groups on those 3 triangles on the board, okay? So, are we all done? All good to go? Right, so you 4 up there, you can be one group. You 4 behind, you can be another group. And you 3 in front, you can be another group, okay? So if you'd like to come over to the boards.
The reason I wouldn't say the same thing for B is because you can't, in this situation, you can be sure of whether sort of each one of those 5 individuals have made an autonomous decision by themselves and can unanimously say, like, we don't know whether one of those 5 individuals has pressured the other into agreeing with them.
Or they could have done like, well, 3 of us think this and 2 don't, and then you've got 2 people who say the majority agree.
But then again, any of them pleading whether to change it or not to change it is going to appeal to like an emotional side of the person. So I think that's individualist as to whether the person decides to that.
It might not be their actual opinion because they might just be saying that to help like the person, but they might obviously they're not going to say yes, we want to die or something. They might be saying it's going
to be a selfless decision if they say move the train to kill us rather than that one person or whatever.
Come on, guys, you can't go for the middle. That's sitting on the fence. Come on. Yeah, come on. No easy way out. That's far too easy.
I think if you had to pick one of the 3, I would go
you can go slightly toward. You don't have to go right in the corner, but if you want to go more to the middle, then that's okay.
So I still don't think it's your decision to make whether personally are or not.
Can we just put all these on?
Yeah, I agree with you on that. But then again, the point you make as not acting is just as much of an action as changing the lever.
Is capitalism wrong?
If you're going to let it play out, you're doing as much wrong as you were to change it. Unless you're going to if you're going to go with fate, then fair enough, you shouldn't do anything. But if you're not going to believe in that, then both actions are just as much action.
You saw C and D as really important. Why was that?
I'd say if you're going to try and make like a value, like utilitarian value judgment, just seeing a certain amount of lives doesn't really tell you much about the value. Like, I'd argue that inherently a human life is worthless because you don't know what actions it's going to take. But once you know what actions these people are taking, you can gain some measure of what their value is, and thus it's very important as when you're making a judgment as to which you value more.
Okay, so so you were influenced by getting the sort of raw data because that was the criminal and the cancer specialist, wasn't it?
I didn't put it entirely in very though because of, like, I'm a little bit funny with deciding, like, sorry, do I have a right to say that somebody who's a cancer specialist should live and a convicted criminal should die. I mean, you don't know what these people were convicted of, if they're murderers or if they're just shoplifters, or so I wouldn't put it entirely in very important, because it's just there could be too many variations of it.
Okay, okay, so you put A and B. Everything else you said was not relevant, okay? But A and B was. Why A and B? A and B were, so the person in the second ravine asks you to divert the train to avoid, so they both sort of allow you to kill them, basically. There, the one person says, no, divert it onto me, and the other case, the 5 people say, no, it's okay, leave it on us. So in both cases, they choose to allow you to kill them. Why is that the only thing you found relevant?
I think we put these ones not being really relevant because you couldn't really decide, depending on the person that they were, like whether if they were worth saving or not, and like you can't justify killing someone just because you believe that they're a bad person. Like for the newborn babies, we said like it was quite an extreme like sense that the newborn babies could grow up and be like criminals themselves, like, and be like almost like Hitler or something like that, and like you can't then justify saying, well, I thought it was right at the time, because in a sense like anything could happen like later on. And then we only said they were some relevance because like in a sense
with A and B, although we weren't sure whether we could be sure that we weren't sure whether the people were acting completely autonomously, because that's a completely separate debate. But we thought that if possible, we should respect their autonomous decision.
Okay.
If we think that it was made in like this good environment, which it is probably not in this situation. But also the reason we've got A is slightly further towards very than B is because we thought we couldn't be sure whether all 5 of the individuals had unanimously decided autonomously that was the route they'd like to go down, so we wouldn't like to facilitate a sort of tyranny of the majority in that 5 people, or a tyranny of the most persuasive person, or anything like that, but we would still like to sort of respect autonomous decisions. And then with all 4 of C, D, E, and F, we sort of think that all of those are consequentialist, utilitarian type things, and you shouldn't allocate value according to predicted consequences, because we cannot predict all consequences.
Okay.
So because you can't do it, don't try to do it.
Okay. And what is it about autonomy that you valued? I mean, I'm trying to work out, do you value autonomy because it's good for wider society, or it's because it's good for those people in themselves?
I think that since this decision is going to be affecting those individuals, if possible, they should be able to make the decision. And also, because in this situation, people that are immediately concerned are the person with the lever, the 5 people in one ravine, and the 1 person in the other ravine. You should try and distribute any decision making between all of the individuals involved.
Okay.
And unless you take into account autonomous decision or autonomous wishes of the other people, then the decision is purely resting on the person with the lever.
Okay. So F and B off by themselves. Why did you distinguish between the 2?
I think it was kind of a balance between that factor of saving as many lives as you can and what this statement was. So B had the 5 people saying, not to divert the train. That's what they wanted, but then you'd be killing 5 people instead of 1. So it kind of made it less relevant. But we kind of all agreed that though quite a lot of them shouldn't be relevant, we knew if we were there in that situation, they definitely would be. They definitely affect the decision we made.
Okay, why do you say they shouldn't be relevant?
Because it's probably quite wrong to decide whether somebody should live or die based on what they've done, so if they're criminals or if they're scientists. But at the time, it probably would change how you...
So you're being quite realistic about it. So you seem to put a strong value on life to some extent. Yeah, so you seem to be really sort of tied. I mean, as I say, sort of a duties theory or a rights theory and a utilitarian can sometimes come into agreement just by accident. So you might want to maximise life, and you might also have a duty to it, but sometimes it doesn't work. So That's okay.
There'd be a lot of internal struggle in that situation.
Okay, that's good. Thank you very much. All done very well.